Hello, and welcome to our first little craft talk. Um, Today I'm going to be touching on the subject of Ancestor Altars. What you see behind me is not an Ancestor Altar. I have not set mine up yet. I was planning on doing that the night of the Rite of Uranomos. However, it's a good subject to talk about now. It's that time of year. There's a lot of different traditions that set up ancestor altars. So I feel like it should be touched upon. Um, so the first thing I feel like you really need to decide is your ancestor altar going to be just for people that you know who have departed, or if it's going to be for your ancient ancestors. Now, it doesn't have to be either or. It could be a mix of both. It could be a little bit here, a little bit there. But it's always good to set out knowing who is this altar for. Especially if you've got ancestors coming from a really diverse group of people. Like, you've got some people who are from Mexico City. They do Dia de los Muertos. They practice that vein versus having Scandinavian ancestors, or, even less diverse than that. You still have some variance and maybe some friction. um, so once you've decided who you really want to focus on or generalize with, the next thing would be picking out the sort of things you want in offering and remembrance for the dearly departed. So, for me, I like choosing different things that appeal to the different parts of the spirit. I will choose pictures of the person. I always make sure, first of all, that if I'm using a photograph or a portrait, painting, artwork, whatever, that there's no one living in the picture. I do not put pictures of people who are still alive on my ancestor altar. I do not put pictures of people who are still alive on my death demonic altar. I just do not cross those streams. Some people say it's a superstition, but I'd rather just not. I'd rather not welcome whatever other energies I'm working with into that person's life, especially unknowingly. So I'll make sure if I have like a photograph of the person who died, because it's someone who was close to me while they were still living, I will make sure to cut out their picture or, make a copy, cut them out from it, so that I have some kind of visual representation for the person. Now, if these are more ancient ancestors, it would be a little harder because you won't have photographs. You might have paintings of them. You might not have any visual representation whatsoever. That's okay. There are other ways in order to honor them than just by the face. And then moving on from the face, we go to the name, the reputation of the person. So this is where I would choose to pick accomplishments this person has done, or, deeds they've done, things that they loved doing, things that people knew they loved doing. So this, a lot of ways, is appealing to their reputation and remembering them the way they would want to be remembered. This is their lasting mark upon the world. And a lot of ways I would consider this playing into the don't speak ill of the dead. If someone's dead spirit comes around and it's like, oh wow, all these people are trash talking me, that's not the best impression. So, an ancestor altar is about honoring the ancestors, about really giving them the energy and the warmth and the we remember you fondly. So, good deeds, things they've done, Now, the way that I represent this upon my altar is I will take, if I have news clippings of things that they've done, um, I'll make copies of the news clippings, put them in frames, make it all pretty, or pictures of things that they've done, paintings of things they've done. Like if you're, say, you're venerating an ancient ancestor, someone down your family line, say, example, Lord Henry Vane. You're honoring him on your altar, so one of the things you might do is Raby Castle. He bought the castle, so you would have representations of the castle of his old home, his accomplishments with establishing that, accomplishments with Parliament, maybe a reprint of one of the books he wrote, or treatises? Yeah, treatises. Um, and so you would have these sort of representations of things they did during their life, which then moves us to a little more of the familiar things they liked. So with the traditions like with Dia de los Muertos, where you put out the meal or the sweets on your ancestor altar, or take them to the graveside. This is where you would figure out, okay, what are the kinds of things that they liked? What are the sorts of things that they really enjoyed in life? So it could be a meal. You could make a meal and put it in an offering bowl on your ancestor altar. Now, that's something you're going to have to remove from the altar quicker than, say, if you put some wrapped candy on there. But at the same time, if it's something they really loved, then, that's a great way to go ahead and share that with them. And then, other things that they loved. If they really loved going hunting, there's memorabilia from that. If they really loved Tootsie Rolls for some unknown reason, then you could put some Tootsie Rolls in a bowl on your altar. And that's a fun one because not a lot of people would question a bowl of Tootsie Rolls on a table that's spooky looking this time of year. So, fun tip for people still not practicing in the open. I was going to say broom closet, but I'm like, I don't want to get into a rant about that right now. Anyway, so those are the sort of offerings, the energetic offerings that you can put on your ancestor altar. And then, I always make sure to have candles. I like lighting candles. I like burning candles and offering. As you can see behind me, I love my candles. I really love candles. So I will always have candles all over. I will burn them. I will let them burn down. I will offer that energy. I'll write, their names on there. I'll anoint them with things like, if they have a favorite herb that they liked cooking with, you can totally dress your candle with that herb. And then a great smelling candle. So, ah, skulls. Skulls are great. I love skulls as well. I have behind me a skull candle and a big gold resin skull and a bunch of stone skulls on my altar. It's a death demonic altar. It should surprise no one. But those are another thing where it's really good with something more on the sympathetic magic side, where you're trying to form that connection and you need something that looks like it, that human skull representation. You can sit there and you can talk to it like you're having a conversation. You can tell your ancestor about your life. You can tell your grandmother about, what you've done over the past year, all of your really exciting things that you've gotten to do since they've departed or since the last time you communicated with them. And so those are like the little decoration things. That's up to you. It's not necessarily just an offering to them, but it's, something to give it the personal touch, give it a little something to go with the season, I know some people are celebrating Samhain. I think I'm pronouncing that right. A lot of people, Dia de los Muertos, All Hallows Eve, Halloween, Rite of Your Nomos. So each of us have those different celebrations and the different decorations and such things that go with that. And some of us put our personal touch on those things. So, that it's a time to get a little festive. It's a time to get a little creative. I always, when I'm picking out an altar cloth for my altar to my ancestors, I will pick a color that, if I'm doing it towards a specific person, their favorite color, or if I'm doing it towards a group, like, if you've got Scottish blood, Scottish clan, you could do clan colors on your altar. So it's really up to you with that. Black always goes great. I'm totally not biased about going black with altar cloths and clothing and everything else. So once you've got all of the different components, you can really start putting it together. Some people like building their ancestor altar way beforehand, leaving it up for the whole month of October. Some people leave it up a year round. Some people like putting it up for the few days there. I'm on very, very limited space, so I tend to go for a few days before I have to reconvert that space again. So I take the time, I give all of my respect, I work with my ancestors. I don't just work with them at this time of year, but this is when I do the big altar for them. And, if you've got other people who are also practicing or also into venerating their ancestors, into trying new things, maybe you can even make it a group project, get people together, do multiple ancestor altars together. It's really up to how you want to plug and play once you know what you're aiming to do. And as a last note, I would want to say that always remember the ancestor altar is about honoring the ancestors. It's about reaching out to them, about giving them your respect. Not really devotion. You aren't worshiping them per se. Some people do. But you're saying hi while the veil's thin. You're reaching out. You're keeping those connections alive. And, it's kind of nice. It's nice thinking that, hey, maybe I'll be remembered someday. Maybe someone will make a really nerdy altar that's got, like, Iron Man on it for me or something along those lines. You never know. But I like doing it anyway. So, happy all the spooky holidays, and I hope you found something useful in this little talk. There are lots of resources online. A little bit of research goes a long way. But I figured I'd put some of my thoughts in on video form. So, happy spooktacular.